So thanks very much for joining us, everyone. I would like to firstly acknowledge that we're gathered both physically and virtually on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, who have been custodians for these unceded lands for many thousands of years. The university is situated on the lands of the Wurundjeri and Boonwurrung, the Dja Dja Wurrung people, the Eora Nation, and the Wadawurrung people. I'd also like to acknowledge the people of the Wurundjeri Boulder tribe, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which I live. We acknowledge and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. So today it's my pleasure to introduce the team and our upcoming collaboration round for Melbourne Data Analytics Platform. My name is Andrew Siebel and I'm the platform manager. And MDAP is a team of research data specialists who are working to enable data-intensive research across all the disciplines at the university. And it was formed as a workforce component of the Peterscale Campus Initiative, or PCI. The PCI is a 5-year plan to accelerate the university's capacity for data-intensive research. Today, this session is across both architecture, building and planning, and fine arts and music. So thank you to both research officers for helping set up this session. I'm going to share my screen. And I hope you can see that. If that's the case, Kim, I will throw to you to take it from here.
Thanks, Andrew. So the PCI has been structured to support an academic-led vision of data-intensive research at the university. It does this through embedding the perspectives and priorities of researchers throughout a process of continual improvement through the consolidation, development and resourcing of both digital data science infrastructure and the workforce that will help maximize researchers' use of that infrastructure. And that workforce component is MDAP, as Andrew mentioned. Next slide. Thank you. So this beehive diagram has been provided by Rachel Ramsdale in Chancellery, and it outlines the 23 platforms across the University of Melbourne research infrastructure landscape, which are supported primarily through the Melbourne Collaborative Research Infrastructure Program, or just MCRIP for short. So just to differentiate and situate MDAP within this landscape, many of these are equipment or facility-based platforms with a service-based approach. MDAP is a people-based platform with a collaborative approach. And you can see from this slide that the university has made a considerable investment in this area. MDAP is here both to collaborate with researchers, but also to help navigate this complex digital research landscape, as you all know it to be quite complex. Could we get the next slide? Thank you. So MDAP is funded 50% by Chancellery and 50% by the 10 academic divisions. And while we work together as a team, as collaborators, we work very closely with domain experts from across these academic divisions. So I just wanted to talk about 3 of our strengths: collaboration, computing, and research impact. In terms of what we bring to the table as collaborators, we're an academic unit of highly skilled research data specialists and data stewards working across the entire research lifecycle, as distinct from a research service provider. So MDAP's bottom-up approach allows us to collaborate and engage directly with researchers and research groups. In terms of computing, our team's expertise and background covers a wide range of disciplines and fields. We're experts in digital methods and are uniquely positioned to understand the language of computer scientists, data specialists, and data stewards, and obviously other academics as well. So in terms of research impact, we're actually ultimately evaluated on very similar metrics to other traditional teaching and research academics. We also value non-traditional and qualitative research outputs, and particularly non-traditional data-related outputs are one of our fortes. The next slide. So this diagram was generated for our recent MDAP brochure, which shows the cross-faculty interactions and connections to business services that MDAP has facilitated over the last 12 to 18 months. So you can see that on the, I think it'll be on the left, that we focused on the faculties of architecture, building and planning, and fine arts and music, showing the numbers of collaborations completed or underway, as well as an estimated breakdown of data science, computation, data stewardship, which has been enabled by MDAP. And those three areas sort of roughly correlate to analytics, computation, to the sort of infrastructure needed to do the analytics, and data stewardship is everything from data management to digital ethics. So you can see that we're really there for to hold researchers' hands through all these things and to help them and play to their strengths. So I'm just going to hand over now to Jonathan Garber.
Yeah, thank you, Kim. So as Kim may have mentioned, we are the workforce component of the Petascale Campus Initiative at the Melbourne Data Analytics Platform, and there's currently 21 of us total. We have two managers named Andrew up here in the top left. We have a communication specialist, Joe, working with us, as well as Ursula, who's a business analyst, helping us integrate with the broader organization. But the rest of us are occupy the role of research data specialists. And they've hired this group of research data specialists to basically represent as many academic disciplines as possible, including everything from archaeology to psychology, linguistics, computer science, geography, astrophysics, maths, artificial intelligence, all the omics, and much, much more. And so basically we tried to capture the largest span of academic disciplines that we can, as well as different tool sets. So there's not a lot of digital tools that one of us hasn't used before. And the strength of our organization lies in that broad scope, and that when you work with us, even if you work with just one of us, you're actually getting the expertise of all of us, because we're always sharing our information. So if we proceed to the next slide, we can see a little bit more about what a research data specialist does. So my day-to-day role and Kim's day-to-day role as research data specialists include working with you, a research data expert, a domain expert, and one of us to collaborate together on a research project. And hopefully during this research project, we can help introduce you guys or you folks as our collaborators to something new. Maybe it could be cloud computing or high performance computing. It could be some new type of novel data analytics that we've used before, and we can help train up your group and get you more acquainted with these new digital methods. And so our day-to-day activities can be seen on the next slide. Kim or Andrew, oh, thank you. Where as a research data specialist, we're both collaborating with you and introducing you to new technologies and new skills, and upskilling you as a researcher and as a research group. So we might be working on research design, data collection and management plans, as well as helping to write new software, design new algorithms, contribute to new types of data analytics pipelines, all the while helping you get acquainted with something new technology-wise. Could be cloud computing, new ways of visualizations. Whatever we know, we're very happy to share our knowledge with you. And now I'm going to move along to...
So John, we were originally going to throw to Bobby now, but Bobby's lost internet connection. So I'll yeah, that's all good. No, you're probably looking for him on the list.
Yeah.
So I'll take over from here and then throw to the next part. So
Bobby's just come back.
Oh, excellent. Thanks, Bobby. You're right to go.
Yep, right to go.
Thank you.
Can we get to the next slide, please? Sorry, am I talking about this or the Verbruggen collaboration?
I think you're supposed to talk about this, Bobby.
Yeah, I can do these slides and then I'll throw it to you for the Verbruggen collaboration. So the 4 main ways that we engage with our colleagues around the university, obviously primarily via research collaborations, but also we play a key role, and part of our remit is around advocacy. We also have shorter term projects and consultancy style engagements with our research colleagues, and we also hope to build a community of practice around particularly around digital methods and data intensive research. So as I said, the main way we interact is via the research collaborations. So, and that's exactly why we're presenting to you today. We've just opened our round of formal collaborations, which are held twice a year. The engagement is for a duration of 3 to 6 months. So it's quite it's larger than just just wanting a bit of advice or, you know, a quick question answered or a consultancy style. This is more of a formal collaboration. We're hoping that will result in you know, high strategic kind of value and research outputs that we can contribute to on an intellectual level, as well as helping you help upskill you as a collaborator in different you know, digital research methods. And those applications, merit-based allocation, and the final decision on which of those collaborations are supported is made by an independent resource allocation committee, and that's made up of senior academics from across the university. So you'll see there at the bottom of the page are the key dates. So we opened this round last Monday on the 26th of October. We have those EOIs, expressions of interest, open for 3 weeks. So they'll close on the 15th of November. And it's a relatively short Qualtrics form that you need to fill out for the EOIs. It's intended to be a relatively rapid process for exactly that reason. It is an expression of interest. But then we will be in touch with those who we would like to proceed to the full application. Those full applications will be open until just about until we break for Christmas. Then assessments are done, and for those collaborations to start in early February in 2021. The other way we can engage and interact with our researchers via what we call projects. These are more informal engagements, always open. We're willing to answer questions and offer advice for those who email the address there, mdap-info@unimelb. That's a shared inbox that we all monitor, and we hope to be very responsive to any questions that come to the inbox there. You can also send any questions you have about the collaboration round, obviously, to that email address as well, and we'll respond to that pretty quickly. So in the last round of collaborations, 2020 which are kind of in the process of being wrapped up now, we received 60 expressions of interest across the university. You'll see the breakdown there across the STEM faculties, the HAS faculties, and MDHS. Relevant, obviously, to the faculties that we're speaking to today. So we had 2 EOIs come from ABP and 2 from Fine Arts and Music. what we did was then a triaging process where that was done internally by the team. So you'll see there a team of 17 research data specialists did an internal triage. We then advised 40 of those 60 to proceed to full application. We then provided some other contacts and suggested other services or research units where those EOIs would be better helped out in different parts of the university. And we also suggested a merge for a number of those applications to make for a stronger full application. And and Crystal will talk about one of those shortly that was successful. Once we got through that process, there was obviously another internal assessment, but then those recommendations went to the Resource Allocation Committee, the independent committee who made the final assessment and advised on which of those collaborations we should support as a team. So now, Bobby, I'll throw to you. You can talk about one of the great collaborations that we've been doing over this round. And then, yeah, we'll go through a number of case studies now. So over to you, Bobby. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew. So one of the current collaborations MDAP, part of the MDAP team currently working on is for collaboration with Assistant Professor Haroon Verbruggen, with collaborators Sebastian Duchesne, Tim Entwistle from Royal Botanic Gardens, Victoria, and Anusia Willis from Saro. The MDAP team members include myself, with Mark Roger, Rob Turnbull, Ed Tascari, Priyanka Pillai, and myself, sorry. And the purpose, despite this being a predominantly biological or biosciences related project, it incorporates a lot of components of data science, including processing large amounts of data efficiently on HPC environments. And so we use these HPC paradigms and computer science paradigms to create a scalable, a reusable, and repeatable metagenomic and annotation pipeline. Thank you, Andrew. Can you please go to the next slide? So what are the sort of aims and goals of this workflow? So the Haroon's team wanted a high throughput and reproducible workflow, which is capable of producing data crunching up to 50 to 100 terabytes of data quite efficiently. He also wants the results to be reproducible in a manner where external resources, external researchers who may read up about the workflow can download the workflow quite easily and run the workflow and get similar results. We also want it to be portable. And by portability, we mean being able to run the workflow on multiple different types of clusters, such as the NCI, or run it locally on a local machine or local virtual machine. Also run it on Spartan as well, and to be able to be run interchangeably on any of these environments quite easily. The workflow itself contains a multi-technological mix, and the diagram on the right shows an example of this. So we've used the workflow definition language, or WDL, which is primarily created and maintained by the Broad Institute. And we use that in conjunction with Cromwell, which is an execution engine. So this allows us to basically write the workflow in a fairly human readable form, and use the Cromwell execution engine to pass that workflow off to a different environment. So we can use the Google Cloud or AWS or any local infrastructure as well. This workflow has a number of different department interactions. So we have interactions with the previous collaborators we talked about earlier, I mentioned earlier. And we're also able to work across multiple fields, or such as statistics. So we use a few statistical paradigms in the workflow as well. And all this is, so far we've pretty close to the completion of the workflow, and the team's done a great job in meeting all the requirements. And once the workflow has been finished, we are looking towards collaborating towards creating some publications. Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks. Over to you, Ed.
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, I'm gonna briefly talk about another one of the collaborations we've been working on in the past 5 months. In this one, the PI is Associate Professor Michael Ziffer from Faculty of Business and Economics, and I've been working on this project with Simon and Daniel, 2 others research data specialists in the team. So the title is Causality in Complex Dynamical Systems, Implementing Core Algorithms in a Distributed Computing Environment. Next slide, please, Andrew. So what's the problem here? Mike's team, they want to study different social and health science phenomena. And as you can imagine, modeling people and relations within among people and groups is really complicated. And so you have complex systems, you have to be able to model complex systems. And I wrote down a list of things here that I just stole from Mike. And natural and social human beings, they have interactions and there are feedbacks in the system, etc. And the other characteristic is that the behavior of the system is often non-linear and chaotic, and it's really difficult to predict what's going to happen because you often have state-dependent behavior that can appear stochastic, but can also, the stochasticity can also hide causality. So you have to study, you need to be able to find correlations between the different players in the system. Next slide. So traditional approaches are not adequate for this type of experiments because you cannot simply do experiments. They're too simple to represent the complexity of the system, impractical or even unethical, depending on what you're studying. And also equation-based model, often they are oversimplified versions of the system you want to study. So Mike and his team, they've been using this tool that's called EDM, empirical dynamic modeling. And the goal is to get a series of data and determine where there are the connection, whether there are connections and causalities, connections between different parts of the data and the system that you're trying to model with this data. The problem there is that you need to match and reconstruct the system dynamics, and that is computationally very expensive. So what we've been doing with them was helping them to speed up their algorithms. First of all, optimize their algorithms, and then now we're moving to the second phase. We're speeding up the algorithms and make them scalable and use them on high performance computing machines like Spartan that Bobby just mentioned, or the research cloud also, depending on what you want to study, or even bigger machines like the NCI facilities in Canberra, where there are computers with 70,000 cores. And so we've been working on this with them. And the gain for us, from our perspective, is that we're getting, we're being exposed to the domain expertise that Mike brings to them and his team brings to the table. And so now we're going to phase 3 of the project, where we are altering the algorithms, because now we kind of get we got our hand around what's going on there. It's not only about, you know, improving things and speeding up things. Now we want to work with them to expand the algorithms together and study new phenomena. And also we've been helping them putting in place a series of infrastructure, starting from accounts on the research cloud to use multi-core machines. And there is a proof of concept project going on at Melbourne Uni with AWS. So you get access to Amazon Web Services and for free, because it's a pilot. and then you can test your models, for example, using GPUs, and it's very simple to set up machines and fire up some GPUs machines and do your testing there. So this is pretty much what we've been doing so far. That's it from me. I guess now back to Kim.
Thanks, Ed. So this is a collaboration with Candace Blake, who's a researcher in MDHS in psychological sciences. It also included a research assistant, Dr. Timothy Schofield, and the MDAP collaborators were myself and Dr. Daniel Russo Batterham. So this research project is primarily focused on Twitter data. So using 6 billion social media posts to understand gendered hate, domestic violence, and mental illness. So Twitter, whether you love it or hate it, has amassed a hugely significant cultural archive since its creation in 2006, with around 140 million daily users and 500 million tweets per day, and probably a lot more than that in the next few days. So it's been used to study many important topics, including predicting elections, tracking the spread of illness, even making mental health interventions. So the researcher in this collaboration was really interested in matching the data from Twitter with other social and economic data to answer research questions related to gendered hate speech, domestic violence, mental illness, and so on. So to do that, we needed to be able to geolocate the tweets, which is no easy feat, even when you have a small amount of data, but much more problematic when you have, terabytes of data. So in this collaboration, we created a processing pipeline that can curate and geolocate tweets from what is a publicly available data set, which is the global streaming API that Twitter provides, which is just a 1% sample, but it adds up very quickly. And we also set up ongoing collection of that data. So the data set is growing. The other problem, aside from geolocating data like this, is actually being able to query it. Would you be able to change the slide, Andrew? Thank you. So on top of a large database and a whole sort of stack of other technologies and tools, we connected a graphical user interface called Kibana, which allows the users to make queries very quickly and also create visualizations of the data. So the goal here is to make this quite seamless for the researchers, so they don't feel like they're interacting with a really, really big data, so they can just do their queries and get out the data they need to do their research. So this data set has enormous potential, and it's relevant to many other domains. And in fact, the researcher, Dr. Candace Blake, I found that today was just awarded a DECRA to continue this work. So I'm really, really excited and pleased for her. So I think I will throw over to Crystal now.
Great, thanks, Kim. Yes, hello. So I'm going to talk about a couple of different pieces of work that we have on at the moment. So on the right-hand side here, this is an example of an MDAP collaboration with researchers from a variety of different locations around the university. And this is one of those examples that Andrew alluded to earlier, where we had a few different EOIs come in. There were some synergies with the EOIs. So we introduced the researchers and they ended up submitting a joint application, which was successful. So you can see in the top right there, we have a number of different schools and faculties represented. But since the genesis of the collaboration, we've actually added people to the collaboration as well. And this is quite unique in the sense that many of the researchers didn't know each other before coming together for this collaboration. They were united by a shared interest in a research question. And now that the people named on this slide, but also others from around the university have come together, this collaboration will continue on even after the formal MDAP engagement ends as well. So this is a really unique example of MDAP being able to introduce and unite
thanks.
And unite you with
Yeah,
other research
and
around.
yeah.
Okay, great. So on the bottom right is sort of something that's quite symbolic of that, which is the fact that this collaboration has sort of created our own artifacts, renamed ourselves Data Creatives, and yeah, is starting to take on a life of its own that will continue beyond the MDAP collaboration. On the left is an example of something that's more like the project level, which Andrew also spoke about earlier on in the presentation. So this is a project that Solange, who's also on the line, and I'll throw to her in a sec to say a few words, Solange and I are undertaking. And it's part of a COVID recovery grant that we recently obtained. So if we just progress to the next slide, Andrew. Brilliant, thank you. So we'll talk about some of the aims of these projects. So I'm talking about them in tandem because these projects are using similar data sources and posing similar kinds of questions, although they are distinct projects. So the aims really here are to understand how the creative industries and education sectors are surviving and thriving during a time of crisis. And that's really a two-part aim. So on the one hand, we're interested in how the creative industries at University of Melbourne have responded to COVID-19. And we're also interested in how the creative industry communities have responded to 2019 generally as well. So if we could just progress to the next slide, please, Andrew. Brilliant, thank you very much. So in this collaboration, we've really taken a data-led approach to these aims. So the first step in the work was to undertake an exploration of where the data about these activities is gathering. So for example, we know that the shift online has caused us to use online platforms and digital devices more than ever. So we sought to identify what these platforms were and how we could collect data from these platforms. So once we'd gotten our hands on this data, we then started to unpick it to see what it was telling us about the state of the creative industries and the response and resilience of the creative industries. So what this slide is showing is just 3 examples of some data that we have identified and started gathering and analysing as part of the collaboration. So we'll start with the bottom left, which is an example of Canvas data. With the Canvas data, we've looked at various different kinds of data that we can obtain through Canvas, such as welcome page text, announcements data, the data about links, where people are linking out to from Canvas. And I'm just going to focus in on that last one, data about links. So one of the things we've extracted is links from creative industries courses, and we found that YouTube is a quite heavily used external platform. So we've gone out to YouTube, which is the top right, and we've used the YouTube API to pull down YouTube metadata, and we're exploring the metadata to look at things like sentiment in descriptions and titles, tags to identify what kinds of videos are being used, as well as things like upload dates to see when the videos that are being linked out to from Canvas were uploaded and whether the videos are being used to demonstrate the shift in creative industries post-COVID. And YouTube has been a really nice data source for us to be looking at because it segues us nicely over into the response of the creative industries in the community as well. So one of the platforms used by the community that we've also looked at is Instagram, which is in the bottom right there. So we've scraped some metadata from Instagram posts based on hashtags. And we're now pulling that data apart to see how the community has responded to COVID and particularly how this has changed as a function of COVID. So how, as the COVID pandemic has progressed, the use of particular hashtags has changed as a function of that. So as you can see, we're kind of creating our own ecosystem of data through which we can explore our aims. And in early December, we'll be holding a workshop to showcase the results from the MDAP collaboration. So look out for the save the date for that. And the project with Solange and I that's going to be focusing on music and performance, it'll be commencing in the next month or so. So more results from that will be available next year. So I'm just going to pause here for a moment to throw over to Solange and see if she like to say a few words about our work together.
Hi everyone, and thanks, Crystal. I'm going to start just by saying that I could feel myself smiling listening to Crystal talk. One of the reasons being that it's just amazing to see, you know, the work that we're doing in collaboration with this team coming to fruition. But I think the thing that made me smile the most is that, and this is sort of a shout out to anyone in the Zoom today or who'll be listening later who might be feeling their heart pumping and a bit of, you know, sweating and thinking, oh, there's so many words and I don't know what they mean, and there's all this data jargon and I don't understand it all. I was that person, I was you 6 months ago, and it makes me again smile to think that I can actually follow along to what Crystal's saying in a way that I absolutely would not have been able to do 6 months ago. So I suppose one of the key things that I wanted to mention in terms of this collaboration is that and this is in particular to anyone who's at the Faculty of Finance and Music, and I think we often have quite an uncomfortable relationship with notions of data, and especially notions of big data. They're not often words that we use in a lot of the research that happens at FAM. But what I would say is that this is the time to you know, put your ideas out there and see what MDAP can do for you, because it really is an extraordinary journey. And the amount of synergy that occurs and the amount of I suppose, knowledge transfer between all of the different members is just absolutely fantastic to see. It's a real partnership. This is not a group of people who will sort of, you know, do research assistant work or sort of help you with your data. These are academics who can really input just extraordinary ideas and conceptualizations of, you know, that further those initial ideas that you may have. So to begin with, the application process was incredibly painless. It was very, very easy and sort of quick to do. And what I loved about it the most in that EOI was that it really was a space where you could just shoot out your idea. I had an idea. Didn't really know how to work it, didn't really know what kind of data could be collected and what the outcome could be, but I just wanted to get that idea out there, and I was able to do it in the EOI. And that's where what Crystal said and what was touched on by Andrew as well, that's where that, I suppose, Crystal, what was the word you used? That it was like academic blind dating. It really was an academic blind dating service. A couple of the MDAP people then contacted me and we had a discussion around another potential MDAP collaboration where there were some really exciting synergies in our ideas and our concepts. So we then met up and had another conversation and then and sort of refined our research question and sent it off. And we were then successful. So that for me, again, was a really exciting thing. And I'm so grateful that happened, because there was a bit of fear in putting your idea out there. Again, normally when you do research, you need to know all of the steps ahead of time. And I think having a space where you can just put your idea out there, even if it's not fully formed, and then have that opportunity to join forces with other people who've got different skill sets to yourself is really, really valuable. So that, if you like, is what MDAP has been able to provide for me. I would never, ever, ever have been able to do all this stuff that's on your page at the moment without Crystal and without the rest of the team. And I wouldn't have had the ideas to go. And again, this really is a true collaboration where every week we meet and we're on Teams all the time, flicking notes to each other. And you can really feel the way that all of our ideas have molded together into this final product. So yes, it's been an extraordinary adventure. And like Crystal's mentioned, there've been other research opportunities and grant opportunities that have come from that. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. I know that there will be more that stem from that as well. So my only advice is do it. Don't hesitate. Just put your ideas out there and put in an application. It's been extraordinary so far.
Thanks so much, Solange. Yeah, we've really enjoyed this work together, and yeah, this is definitely a working relationship that we will continue. And yes, Solange, I think you hit on something really important there, which is sometimes we can get stuck on the language. But one of the benefits, as Jonathan mentioned earlier about MDAP, is that we are such a diverse team. And so we do really understand that data means different things in different contexts. And these words like data intensive and data led and data driven also mean different things in different contexts. So you don't have to have, 40 terabytes of data to work with MDAP. In fact, sometimes you don't have to have any data to work with MDAP. So yeah, if you have any questions, please do drop us a line or ask us a question right now. Great, so I'll open the floor, I guess.
Thanks, Crystal. I'm just going to stop sharing. Really appreciate your comments, Solange, and yeah, I mean, I also get excited every time I hear about the progress from all of our collaborations, but particularly those ones that are truly cross faculty and cross university collaborations. So I really do think that's where we can best value add because we have a good perspective on what's happening across the faculties as well. So I think we can bring value in that way. So thank you, and thank you to the team for presenting. I'm going to stop the recording now.